Waiting for it. And there we go. We are live. Yay. Hello, everyone in the chat. Hope you guys are doing really well. I am joined by the incredible author, Catherine Doyle. Catherine, do you prefer Catherine?
Cat.
Cat.
Let's go with Cat.
Cat, could you introduce yourself to these lovely viewers who may not know your books just yet? And also, we will be doing spoiler free. So if people haven't yet read your books, they don't have to worry. We won't be ruining anything for them.
Never. Sure. So I'm Cat, or I guess my pen name is Catherine Doyle, and I'm a middle grade author of sort of magical adventure books for children. And I've written the Stormkeeper trilogy. That's the Stormkeeper's Island, the Lost Tide Warriors, and the forthcoming The Stormkeeper's Battle. And this Christmassy book, The Miracle on Ebeneezer Street, which is sort of like a modern day reimagining of Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol.
And better than A Christmas Carol, some might say, as well. Believathon Book of the Month as well. So controversial. I feel like it's a given. Danny says, I hate when you drinks. Kat, what are you drinking?
I'm drinking a Sauvignon Blanc.
Oh my God, that sounds so fancy. I couldn't even pronounce it. It's not fancy.
It's like a tenner, but it's delicious. White wine, basically. I don't know anything about wine. I just know there's like this one wine that I really like in my local shop, but I don't know anything about wine.
Well, that's still a 5 or more than mine, because this is just rosé wine, and you know it's nice. I'm surprised. But I do want to toast to Kat, who has literally actually it's been a couple of months now since Miracle on Ebeneezer Street came out.
Yeah, it came out in October.
But like, 'tis the season to read it.
Nobody cares about Christmas books in October, so now it's like it feels like the proper release when people actually, are okay to talk about Christmas.
That's true, but to be fair, I actually read quite a few Christmas books in October. I don't know what I was thinking. I was just like, including Miracle on Ebeneezer Street. So I was actually in the mood. I was in the mood for it.
Some people are Christmassy people. Like, I'm mad Christmassy. So like I'd have my tree up in summer if they sold them, but other people have really strict rules about it, about Christmas movies and Christmas music and stuff. So
yeah, well, I mean, I had a couple of icebreakers that kind of asked a little something like that. So let's pretend that I don't know that fact. It's all good. But yes, I always love an icebreak round. So these are like really silly questions just to get to know you a bit better. Some of it is just normal, and then half of it is Christmassy based. I don't know why, but I was feeling, because Miracle on Ebeneezer Street is festive, I thought, let's do some festive icebreakers. Let's get to know you just a little bit better. So this is a question I ask everyone. So this is a boring start. Anyway, are you a morning? Yeah, sorry. But it gets better, don't worry. Let's start on a low note and go high. That's what I always say. Let's elevate everyone's expectations here. But what are you? Are you a morning person or a night owl?
Oh, a night owl. I absolutely hate mornings. I hate getting up early. Doesn't matter what time I get up at or how many hours I've slept. I'm not functional before noon. Like, there's no point in contacting me before noon, because I'm just like a zombie. But like, I love nighttime.
Fair. I know. I mean, that's great, because then I know when to like message you and stuff and like hound you for things. It's like on the nighttime. But
like 3 a.m. the witching hour.
Yeah. If you were a wrestler, what would your entrance song be?
Oh my gosh, so good.
And you would make a great wrestler, I feel like.
I'm very like, I scream easily, and I'm like a scaredy cat. What would my entrance song? I really love, this is so irrelevant, I'm just thinking of a song that I really love, and that's Africa by Toto.
Oh yeah.
It's totally irrelevant to the actual wrestling part of it, but I feel like that would go with my personality. Just like, why am I here? Let's sing this high pitch. Yeah. I'm gonna die.
I mean, that's fair. Mine would be irrelevant as well. I think mine would be like My Neck, My Back or something.
Oh,
like, really cool like that. Just to get everyone on the dance floor, getting ready for that.
Oh, this is not a children's interview.
It never was. So what has been one of your favorite reads of the year so far?
Oh wow, good question. Oh, you know what? Just what immediately comes to mind is The Midnight Guardians by Ross Montgomery. Oh my God, what a treat. I remember when I was reading the proof. probably ages ago now, and I read the first page, and I just got like those tingles that brought me back to when I was a child, and I was discovering like Narnia for the first time. Like, I think Ross writes with such delicate like whimsy and humor and like heart. I think he's an incredible author, but there's something about that book that's just like, I don't know, I loved it. I thought it was so funny as well. It's one of the few books this year that had me like laughing out loud continuously, which is, I think, quite rare for me.
Yeah, and Ross is such an amazing guy as well. He's just so lovely, and the success of that book, like, it couldn't have happened to a better person, really. And
totally
he writes
agree.
so well, well.
I totally agree. I'm delighted for him.
Yeah, same. It would definitely be one of my top reads of the year as well, for sure, for sure. As well as this one, Miracle on Ebeneezer Street, which actually, a comment from Kate, Miracle on Ebeneezer Street is an awesome book, devoured it in one sitting, now sharing with a class at school.
Oh, thanks, Kate. That's great. I'm delighted to hear that.
It's actually especially great during like this time as well. I remember when I was in primary school, and you know, like the week or two before we would break up for Christmas, our English teacher would either read a book or he would put on, I think it was like a really old version of The Snowman or something like that.
Yeah.
What a great one. But he would like read a chapter from a book like each day leading up to the holiday. Can't remember what books he would read. I remember him reading Goosebumps during Halloween, but then during Christmas, I can't remember what festive books. But it's like, I love the fact that teachers are doing like Miracle on Ebeneezer Street and stuff.
They're one of my favorite memories from school is the chapter a day. I think my teacher, I vividly remember she read Harry Potter to us, the first one. And she would do like a chapter a day in December. And it was just like my favorite, because you know when you're a kid and you love books and you're like, yeah, it's book time.
Yeah.
Great.
And they're reading it to you as well. They're doing the hard work. All you have to do is sit back and
listen. I know, yeah. Just got to basket it.
Okay, so you did mention that you're a really Christmassy person. Well, I found this to be such an interesting would you rather question that I embellished myself. Like, this is how smart I am. So would you rather it be Christmas every day where carol singers sing outside your house? Or would you rather it be Halloween every day where trick-or-treaters knock on your door asking for candy?
Well, I feel I'd be bankrupt with Halloween. You know, it's tricky because I actually really love Halloween as well. Big Halloween gal. But, you know, I think both scenarios, dare I say, would get quite annoying. I think I'd still take Christmas, though. Christmas over trick-or-treaters.
As long as they change up the song as well.
Yeah, and I guess if they're outside your door, you could just go to the back of your house.
Imagine you've just got a set time where you just leave the house like to the back and you just like...
But it's better than turning down children coming trick-or-treating. Wait, are the carol singers also children?
Oh, maybe. Oh. I didn't think about that actually, but could be.
Oh, I feel mean. Yeah, I go for Christmas. I'd take Christmas.
Same.
That's a good one. Yeah.
I don't mind locking the door on Halloween. No, I'm joking. I'm not that horrible.
That's a real Scroogey move.
It was. What is the worst gift you've ever gotten for Christmas?
Oh my God.
And I hope they're not watching as well. Oof.
That's a good question. I know that the worst gift. Oh, yes. I remember it well, in fact. I think I was my early teens, and I had asked for like a CD player or something back in the days of CDs. And I remember my dad wrapped a big box for me with a bow, and on Christmas Day he gave it to me. And coincidentally, the family hairdryer had broken a few weeks before, like the one that we all used. And it was a new hairdryer. He was like, here's a new hairdryer, but it was really just like for the family. And I remember just being so disappointed.
That's
so like,
shocking.
you know, I'd love a hairdryer now because now I care about, you know, like drying my hair, I guess. But I remember at the time just feeling so duped. I know that's not like a really tragic gift, but just if you go from like expectation to like that sinking moment of just being like, oh, it's almost like getting a vacuum cleaner or something when you're that's what it felt like.
Or an iron, you know, because I hate ironing. So
yeah, it's like, I don't want this.
Yeah, very true. I think mine would probably be because I really wanted an Ariel, the Little Mermaid doll, like a Barbie doll when I was a kid. But obviously my dad was like, no, they're for girls. You can't have one of them. And he ended up getting me like a military Ken doll or something
Oh,
like
like
that.
Action Man or
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah. Oh, yeah, I think that's what it was. Action Man. Yeah. Oh, God. What
Wow.
a
Were you? Did you
absolute...
show your disappointment?
Oh, yeah. And I still do that to this day. I cannot hide my feelings well at all.
No,
And my face just drops when I'm
really. My
disappointed. Oh,
brother
my
is
God.
like that. We
Yeah.
hate doing Secret Santa with him because anyone who gets him. One year, my mom had him not too long ago, and I can't remember what she got him, but anyways, he was so disappointed that he was like, the first thing he said was, "And do you have the receipt?" Like, he wasn't trying to be mean, but he just like didn't. He was so like perturbed by the gift. He was like, "Why would you ever think that I would want this?" And then he like sat her down and was like, "No, I'm curious as to what you were thinking." Like, he wanted to get into the psychological process behind whatever this gift was. It was so every year we just like, we don't want him because it's too hard on our feelings.
I can imagine when you pick him out of the hat or whatever it is you do, you can tell by your face who's got him.
Yeah,
just because it's the
literally,
instant.
literally.
Yeah.
That's literally how it goes every year. Whoa.
Oh, hopefully he's not watching.
He wouldn't care. He owns it. He's like, he owns it.
Oh, good. A bit of a Christmas Carol-y kind of question. Do you have a favorite movie adaptation of A Christmas Carol?
Muppets Christmas Carol. Also, best one by a mile, and just so normal. Although I will say, I loved that movie so much that when I sat down to like write my reimagining, before I had kind of reread A Christmas Carol, the book, I thought there were two Marleys in the original text. Do you know that song, Marley and Marley? That's in the Muppets. I was like, oh yeah, so there's two Marleys, the Marley brothers. And then I read the original. And I was like, wait, what? There's only one Marley? I'm also a big fan of the Jim. Have you seen the Jim Carrey one? It's very creepy. I loved it. I remember people that like hated it when it came out, but like thought it was really good.
It's funny you mentioned that, actually, because one of my favorite Christmas movies is Polar Express, and people keep saying that's creepy, but it's kind of, I don't know if they use the same kind of animation, because I think they might have done. They look similar.
Yeah.
Like a very kind of
almost not creepy. Polar Express.
I don't think it's creepy, but when I did a post the other day and I said Polar Express, I watch it every Christmas Eve, the amount of people who've said that's a creepy film, Gav. And I was like,
you're a creep.
Yeah, you're a creep. You're a fraud.
That's what's wrong with you. Do you know what's really good actually? Is Klaus on Netflix.
Oh, I haven't watched it yet.
That's the best Christmas movie I've seen, I'd say, in years. Like in years. It's incredible. And I watched it on a whim last year, and I remember just being like bowled over by how good it was. Like, it was really, really fantastic.
Ah, that's going on.
It's a little nugget for you.
Thank you. That bit of wisdom that I've been wanting from this interview. I mean, that's all I needed from this interview. Goodbye, everyone.
I just worked for Klaus.
Since you've actually sung quite a lot in this live show already, do you have a favorite Christmas song? And would you care to, I don't know, sing it? I don't know.
I'm an absolute.
You don't have to sing it.
I'm an awful singer. I wish I was a good singer. If I was a good singer, I'd be so obnoxious because I'd sing constantly. I'd just sing in people's faces all day long. So it's probably for the best. Do you know what? Like my favorite Christmas song is. I'm a little bit embarrassed about it because I know it's like a really uncool song. I just really like. You know that song "When a Child is Born"? I don't even know.
Yes.
Yeah. It's just like, it's so like weird and old. I just think from my childhood I used to love hearing it. And my other one is Mariah Carey's "All I Want for Christmas Is You." Classic. It's a classic. Yeah.
And nobody can hit the heights of Mariah Carey. Every cover I've heard have just never come close.
People shouldn't try. try. No, they're not gonna best it.
Almost like a Christmas Carol. No, I'm joking. I kid. I say it with love. Do you have a favorite Christmas tradition that you do every year?
Favorite Christmas tradition? Not particularly. Like, we do like family games. In the last few years, my fiance is from California, so I would fly to California after Christmas, and we would do like the latter, like the back half of Christmas and New Year's over there, in like cozy pajamas, and it would be sunny, and like that's become a really cool thing that I won't be doing this year or maybe ever again. But for the last few years, that's been really just like the highlight of my year. Because like there's something really nice about getting sunshine in December and like having that like family experience with another family. But no more. Not this year.
I mean, not this year, but next year is going to be so much better. So much better.
Yeah.
So last sort of icebreaker question. What would you like for Christmas?
So I've actually asked for, this is probably boring. I asked for, who have I asked? I asked my Secret Santa, my family Secret Santa, for running shoes, winter running shoes. But if I could choose anything, I want a puppy or like a dog.
Oh, yeah.
But I think I'm going to wait on that. But I am going to get a dog very soon. Occupies my thoughts constantly.
I was going to say, are dogs good at catching mice?
It's funny. I've given this a lot of thought. Just as a bit of context, I had a mouse jump on my face about three or 4 weeks ago, and then spent 3 days chasing it around my house before it met its untimely demise. And ever since then, I have been. Everyone I've said it to has been like, "Just get a cat. Like you'll never have to worry about this again if you just have a cat." But I just hate cats with a burning passion, because growing up, I used to keep rabbits. And well, I started out with 1, then 2, and then, as you can imagine, 24, 30, 40, like rabbits breeding like rabbits. And the cats, we used to always have to like chase away the cats, because the cats would come around the garden and try to eat them. And so it conditioned in me a sort of a latent mistrust of cats. So I can't have a cat in my house. And no, to answer your question, dogs apparently are useless with mice.
Oh, well, I mean, at least they'll be good to snuggle with,
Yeah.
So they've got their uses. You don't, it's fine. I did want to highlight this comment as well by Aideen. I'm a librarian, and I was lucky enough to have Kat visit our junior book club last year. They're still talking about it. They loved meeting her. Can't wait to give them your new book.
Oh, Aideen, hi! Yes, I remember that well. That was great fun. Great crack.
Good. Do you do, I mean, it's probably been not as much maybe this year, but do you do like a lot of school events, and like, I guess they're more virtual now, but
I don't do a huge amount. I do a lot around publication. So I would do like maybe 2 weeks, especially in the UK. They're always very concentrated, because when I go over, I'll go over for about 2 weeks. So I'll do loads. In Ireland, slightly more sporadically, just because I don't love driving, because I'm a bad driver. So I don't like to drive. Don't like to drive too much if I can help it. But it depends. It just depends. I try to do a fair amount, but I wouldn't do as many as like, say, Maz Evans or any of those. Like, I wouldn't be as sort of prolific in that sense, just because I don't really have like the time, or I find that like I'm always writing or editing and stuff. But I do remember Aideen's event. That was really fun.
Oh, that's cool. And funny you mentioned Maz Evans. She was my first ever author school event I did as part of the bookshop.
Oh, really? She's fab. I just know that she's like an event machine, and she's so kind of funny and brilliant, and she's got it down pat. So like, I know that's a huge part of like her kind of author routine. It's just not, I probably would be if I lived in the UK, but I don't.
We'll get you over, and then we'll
I do love coming over though. I love coming over. I love doing events. I love doing bookshop events, all that stuff. It is like a huge highlight. I can't wait till things get back to normal and that's like possible again.
That's the first thing you're going to do. I love that. Well, I'd love to talk to you about you being an author for a little bit, if that's okay.
Sure.
But again, you probably get asked this a lot during like any kind of interview. But is writing and being an author something that you always dreamed of doing, or was little Cat Doyle, wanting to do something else? Did you want to be an astronaut? Did you want to be a forensic scientist? What was the dream?
Yeah, to be honest, it probably always was a dream of mine, but I never thought it was sort of a possibility. I always thought it was kind of a remote thing, especially as when I became a teenager. I kind of put it on the back burner, and I got really interested in psychology. So I went to school to college, and I studied psychology for 3 years. And then I enrolled in a master's in health psychology. And I remember I spent the summer writing scientific papers on something called non-specific benign chronic lower back pain. And it's the most depressed I think I've ever been in my life. Like, I remember by the time the master's began and I was going in and I was learning about all this stuff. And I was learning how to write scientifically, which means like no adjectives. You're kind of boxed in and you have to be very factual, which I hate. And it was just the opposite of kind of all the creative stuff that I'm interested in and like using your imagination. And it had an awful effect on me. I remember on day 2 of that master's, I just stood up in a lecture, so rude in hindsight, walked out and just walked all the way home, like 6 kilometers to my house, went into my house and just started crying. And I was like, I absolutely hate this path that I've just put myself on in life. Like it not only was unfulfilling, I felt like it was like directly going against like what I really wanted to do creatively. And I just knew I loved books. So I re-enrolled in a different course, a publishing master's, because I thought, well, even if I don't get to be a writer, I want to work with books, whether it be marketing or PR or editing or just whatever. And it was during that year that my mom basically, she came home one day. My mom, just for context, is a doctor and she works like mad hours, like crazy hours. She doesn't have any free time. I think that's how she likes it, but she's just always busy. So she kind of came home one day from work and she said, I really want to do creative writing. Like it's a passion of mine. I was so surprised. I was like, what? Why? And she was like, can you come with me to this night course? Just you and me, like the gals, like going, whatever. And she kind of like emotionally manipulated me into like accompanying her. And I remember being like so hassled by it, but being like, okay, fine, I'll go with you. God, Mom, you're so annoying. And like after the first day, I loved it. Like I loved sharing my work. I loved the whole process. It was so invigorating and inspiring. I like bloomed. And my mom just like immediately stopped showing up. She like never did the homework. Whenever she did come, she'd be late. She'd be like eating a sandwich in the back of class. Like no respect for the class at all. And after like 8 weeks, I remember I turned around and I was like, you know what? Like, I think I actually might try my hand at writing a novel. And she was like, yes,
oh
you
my
will.
God. Oh.
So it was, and then it's so embarrassing because I was like, oh yes, it's very obvious. Like in hindsight, I was like, oh, you've tricked me into discovering my passion and, finding confidence to chase that dream. And she was just like, no, let's go home. So she really tricked me into going for it.
Oh my God, that is like a story in itself, like a middle grade story. It had that, moral at the end of it where, she helped you discover your dream. You had to come to that conclusion on your own. Oh my God. That is beautiful.
Great, yeah. She's a real meddler. Like she's so good at subtly meddling in everyone's lives. But I remember thinking halfway through that for someone who was a doctor, she had an awful work ethic. Like I couldn't fathom like how she was just not showing up. She never did her homework. It was so mortifying for me. But I remember that on the last day, she came in with me and a woman came up to us after and she said, oh, when we really miss you both, you're sisters, right? And my mom, like literally, my mom glowed. She was like, no. And I remember being so offended. You think I look like a 60-year-old woman? But that really made it all worth it for my mom. She was like, whatever about the creative writing. Someone said I look young. I feel great. She came out of there feeling pumped. And I was like,
yeah, that was such a backhanded compliment, really. Is somebody's going to get hit in that compliment on there.
Like,
Tracy's actually asked, what part of Ireland do you come from? Her mum comes from County Monaghan.
Lovely part of the world. I'm in Galway in the west, sort of between the city and Connemara. So I call it Storm Central because all we have are storms these days.
Oh gosh, I was going to say I can hear the rain pounding on my window. Probably isn't as bad as what it is by you, but it's I do love it. I do love hearing the rain on the window. Oh, the best.
Especially when you're inside and you're cozy. Yeah, it's my favorite thing.
Yeah, maybe not when I'm leaving for work, but definitely when I'm inside reading a book. Actually, I was I'm always going to be honest with you, Kat. We're friends now. I read Stormkeeper's Island for the first time this week, and I listened to it with the audiobook as well.
Oh yeah, Patrick's amazing.
And I need to anyway because I'm terrible for pronunciations with. It doesn't matter if it's like, I know it's Fionn now through the audiobook and stuff from Stormkeeper's Island. But say if it's like an epic fantasy kind of book,
I know,
or anything like that, I need the audiobook for it. Otherwise, I will not know how to pronounce anything. I'm terrible. I think it might be a northern thing. I don't know. how do you write, and has it changed this year because everything that's gone on? Like, I can imagine, because you've been writing, well, I don't know when you finished The Miracle on Ebeneezer Street, but I imagine you've probably been writing the third book in the Stormkeeper's Island series during lockdown. I don't know if maybe you've had to change and adapt your writing style for this. I don't know if you've maybe wrote that earlier, or like, have you been writing during lockdown?
Yeah, I have. So the main change to my writing, I finished the Stormkeeper's battle at the start, kind of at the first, like lockdown's been going on for so long now, but like
Yes.
back in, time has lost all meaning, back in maybe March or April. And that was pretty true to how I imagined it ending. But the stuff that I'm working on now, for me, I've made a big change. I can't really say too much about it, but it basically, I'm writing more humor and romance, lighter topics. Because, and similarly, like to what I'm reading and watching, I find that my capacity for like sadness or like horror or like anything like vaguely depressing is really, really low at the moment. So I'm just seeking out like lighthearted, feel good sort of stories. So that's coming through in the stuff that I'm writing at the moment, pretty much.
I remember when you did the interview with Anna James, I think it was back in April, maybe, and you were talking about Stormkeeper's battle, and you were saying it's a book, it has words, and it just kind of felt like you just, I don't know, like you were like so relieved that you'd done it, I guess. Like
the truth is, Gav, I forgot I did that. The truth is I had to write that book. I rewrote that book about 4 times, like over the course of a year. So that's why it's really hard to remember. I will say the draft that it is now, it's fully finished, is the proudest I am probably of any of the books I've ever written. And that's genuinely, but up until quite recently when I was trying to rewrite it and trying to give it like the ending, this like epic ending that was satisfying and kind of exciting and stuff, trying to get that right took me about a year. And there were times when I wanted to just fling my laptop at the wall. And Anna, obviously, you know, she and I would kind of share our editing frustrations, which are really normal. But that was the hardest book I've ever written to get right. And it's probably the proudest I am of a book. But wow, there was a good year there when I just didn't ever want to think about it or talk about it because I just couldn't see the light at the end of the tunnel.
Oh my gosh! I mean, we'll probably talk about that a little bit more later on because I have like a whole little like section and stuff because you know I'm just so organized. Because like I find it fascinating, you know, just the fact that you've just like the whole writing experience and getting from the first book to that book. But yeah, sorry, I'm totally making you go ahead.
This is me stealing all your questions and just pre-answering them, which is like an interviewer's nightmare.
No, it's like you're just bouncing off on my vibe. It's like it's the best.
We're vibing.
We are vibing. You are, well, actually, you've just mentioned before about how when you went to those creative writing classes and things, you liked sharing your work with other people and stuff. Do you still do that? Like, do you like to still share your drafts? No, that's totally changed.
Now I hate it.
Oh, no.
No, do you know what it is? For me, like my first drafts are so rough. Like they're only about 50% of where the story will end up. And I know that now. So the only people I like sharing them with are literally my editor who has to read it to help make it better. Yeah. I don't mind sharing my work at a like kind of midway through the process, but I'm so protective of my first drafts because I just know they're not reflective of where the story is or how good the story is going to end up being. And I tend to hate them, deeply hate them until I kind of rewrite them. So no, it actually makes me extremely uncomfortable.
Fair. And when you finally get it done and you send it out to the world, do you try and stay away from reviews and things like that?
You know, I don't read reviews. I used to, like years back, my first book, which was like a YA book called Vendetta, I think it was like 7 or 8 years ago now, I would read all of those reviews. And I found that no matter how many positive reviews I read, it would just take one negative review to kind of ruin my day. And it's like, I know it's really difficult for people. A lot of people like love reading their reviews and I think each to their own. But for me, like I'll read a review if I'm tagged in it, but I won't, like, I don't look at like my Amazon rankings. I don't go on Goodreads. Just because like, I just don't think that space isn't for me. Like, I don't know, it feels kind of like intrusive, and also it's not healthy for me either. But if I'm tagged in a review, and that's nice, because usually you don't get tagged unless the review is good. So if I'm tagged in a review,
unless somebody really awful tags you in a negative review,
that does happen. That
oh
happens. Like, yeah, that does happen. Once I was tagged in a review, and it was a bad review, but it made me laugh so much. It was like a YA review, and it was just like one line. It was like, "This book is a piece of cheese for your sandwich." And like, obviously that's like a takedown, but I just remember thinking it was so funny. So in that one instance, I didn't mind it, just because I thought it was kind of clever. It was a cleverly mean review.
I like that. You're looking to the bright side.
Yeah.
Then why did you make the transition from YA to middle grade? Is it because middle grade is more lucrative or anything like that? Is that, or is it like more of a passion? You're rolling in it now.
No, actually, it was kind of accidental. It just kind of happened that I went to visit Arranmore Island, off the coast of Ireland, where my grandparents are from. And that is kind of what inspired the Stormkeeper's Island. That visit for me, when it happened, was so inspiring that it was like a book sort of dying to pour out of me. And it just so happened that the way that formed in my mind was, it was an 11-year-old boy and his 13-year-old sister, and there was a lot of shades of my childhood in it, stuff like that. So that came out as middle grade. And as I was writing it, I knew it was good. Like, I knew it felt magical as I was writing it. I didn't have to work at it, which is so rare. And when I sent it to my agent, and subsequently as we went out and kind of went around to publishers selling it, the reaction was such that it was like, oh, this is your heartland. Like, you're really good at middle grade. And I think that made sense, because I love reading middle grade fiction. Having said that, like, YA is something that I definitely will be returning to.
Ooh, oh, we got an exclusive, guys.
Because I love it. I love both genres. You know, YA is like massively exciting.
I feel like you could do a Kieran Millwood Hargrave and write in all age ranges. You could do middle grade. You could do adult. YA.
I don't know how Kieran does it. She's incredible, because every book she turns out is of the highest quality, and yet. And I just read another of her books. I don't think it's been announced yet. It's coming out, I think, next year. And it's, again, every book that I read, usually it's a new genre for her, and it's like my favorite. It's always like my favorite so far. My favorite. So like, she just gets consistently better, and she's like a master of all of these, genres. For me, I'd love to write an adult novel one day, but I just don't think I have it in me at the moment. I think it would take like a huge amount of like thinking in the work, that I don't want to do.
Yeah, fair. I mean, I'm not a writer, so I could only imagine how much, and like just writing different genres, how you would keep it up and stuff. I don't know. But I'm going to talk about Miracle on Ebeneezer Street first, I think. If anybody has any questions for Kat in the comments, do let me know, and I'll highlight them. But I was going to talk about Miracle on Ebeneezer Street first, because that's what the main chunk that I wanted to talk about. But also, we're talking about being inspired to write Stormkeeper's Island. Okay, I'll talk about Miracle on Ebeneezer Street, and don't worry, we're not going to be talking about spoilers or anything. I mean, yeah, Claire is in the comments. She can't wait to read the book. But don't worry, we're not talking about spoilers. Trisha did ask what made you start writing, and that was your mum, though, wasn't it? So that was,
trickery.
Yeah. Trickery, a betrayal, stabbed in the back. All of
evil
that. Mother. As mothers do. Let's talk about Miracle on Ebeneezer Street, because I love it so much. So firstly, was Miracle on Ebeneezer Street like an idea that you felt like you personally had to do? How did the idea for it come about? Was it something that, like Stormkeeper's Island, you visited a place and it just fell into your head and you were like, yes, this is the story that I need to write? Was that like that for Miracle on Ebeneezer Street, or was it something totally different?
No, guys. It was the exact opposite, actually.
Wow.
What happened was, after the success of the Stormkeeper series, Puffin reached out to me via my agent and said this year is their 80th birthday, and it's also the 150th anniversary of Charles Dickens' death, and they really wanted someone to have a go basically at reimagining A Christmas Carol for this Christmas. And what they liked about the Stormkeeper series, kind of the balance of like heart and humor and kind of quirkiness, they thought that I would bring something fresh to a reimagining if I wanted to do it. So they sort of put the feelers out. My agent sent the email to me and said, what do you think? I like died because I absolutely, like, one, I absolutely love Christmas, and two, you know, Christmas Carol and all of its iterations are like my favorite things ever. Like, they're, you know, I couldn't kind of believe that the opportunity had been extended to me. So I immediately jumped on it. I said, yes, yes, yes. And they had no kind of prescriptive. They didn't tell me what to write. They just said they wanted it to be child-centric, obviously, like middle grade. And beyond that, they were just like, go for it, like, see what you come up with. So I had absolute sort of a blank slate in terms of what to do with it. But initially, I remember I was so kind of paralyzed by fear, because I thought, oh my God, like, I'm not just following in the footsteps of Charles Dickens, the man himself, but also, you know, the Muppets Christmas Carol is so good, and there's so many amazing versions, but there was none that I could think of, and I could be wrong, but there was no really well-known one that I could think of that had a child at the heart, like a child protagonist. And I thought, well, I think I could do something really special, you know. So that's where kind of George Bishop, like 10-year-old George Bishop, came from. And I didn't know what I was going to do with it. I mean, I had the basic structure, obviously, Christmas past, present, and future. That's not a spoiler, I hope. But in chapter 1, I wrote this scene where George and his granny sort of sneak away to Winter Wonderland in Hyde Park, where I had been, I think, 2 years ago for Christmas in London. It's just like an incredible, oh man, I loved it so much. But and I wrote this scene where he kind of happens upon a little Christmas cabin called Marley's Christmas Curiosities. And it's kind of in there that he finds this treasure trove of enchanted Christmas inventions, one of which is a snow globe, which, you know, sort of is the thing that enacts George's miracle. And when I was writing that scene, you know, it's bursting with kind of magic and fun. And it was just that chapter 1. Once I had chapter 1 down, I thought, yes, I had such a feel for the story and the magic and the characters and what I wanted to do with it. It's sort of, from there on out, it was almost seamless. It just felt like right. And I knew I had a good command, and this was going to be the kind of imagining that I hoped it was going to be. So in that sense, that it didn't come together for me as a story until I finished chapter 1. And once I finished chapter 1, it was just the most fun to write, genuinely. Like, it was so much crack. There's so many characters in it that I love. And yeah, it just was like a cool little kind of Christmas adventure for me. Yeah.
I was going to say that first chapter it set the tone so well. I've never been to like Hyde Park or anything like that, but I could picture it, and just like the hot chocolates, and, you know, Nana going away, you know, to get, you know, let George wander and stuff. I don't know, there was something so magical about that. And yeah, it was just like the greatest way that you could open the book, I feel. And I was just about to ask, like, was there a lot of research going into it? But as you said, you reread A Christmas Carol and all of that. So did you like watch a lot of Christmas movies as well, just get that Christmas feeling?
Yeah, I mean, I wrote it. I think I started writing it in August or September. So I like decorated my house for Christmas, genuinely, in like early September. I bought, I want to say, 30 or 40 scented candles, like pine scented, cinnamon scent, you know, like Christmassy scented candles on sale, because it was not the festive season. And I basically just turned my house into Christmas, played Christmas music, got in the mindset, because I wanted the book to feel really kind of festive. And it's really difficult to do that in the height of summer, or, you know, if it's not Christmas time. So that was the first thing I did. And then I read A Christmas Carol quite a few times. It's actually very short. It's only about 30,000 words. Trying to pick out, I wanted it to be really, really different to A Christmas Carol, recognizable, but like different. So I went through A Christmas Carol and I picked out the stuff that I wanted to switch over, and I chose certain references that I would thread in a little bit more subtly. So like Marley became a much bigger character in my book, and then the Scrooge type character is not George, but his father, Hugo. And then I just sort of, from there, I kept the 3 Christmas journeys, past, present, and future. And then I just sort of built all these new side characters and magical mechanisms around them. So it really felt like a breath of fresh air and something that would make sense in the modern times. Because, you know, A Christmas Carol, it's super Victorian. I know that's the point. Like, it was written in 1843. So there were lots of it, parts of it that I loved and parts of it that I just felt really removed from, because it's just a totally different era. So I just updated sort of all of that stuff as well.
Good. I did read it for the first time last year, and it was like really good and everything. And it's like great. It's still like it still holds up to this day for like
Yeah.
the Christmas, and it's such a timeless story as well. I feel like it's one that can be told maybe for like hundreds more years to come, which is
Yeah.
awesome. But what I definitely loved about this is that you didn't have Scrooge as the main character. As you said, you had George as the main character, and he's an absolute, honest to God, little cinnamon roll. He really, really is. The fact that he holds on to hope like so much, and he's trying to hold on to that Christmas spirit. There was, I mean, again, like no spoilers or anything, but it's mentioned in the synopsis and everything. But he did lose his mum 3 years before, and his dad is now the Scrooge. He is not wanting to celebrate Christmas, and it's taken everything for George and Nana Flo to keep the magic alive, really. It's quite an emotional book. It's quite an emotional book. Was that hard? Like, do you find it hard to write a book that, like, a middle grade book that really tugs at the heartstrings, or was it like something that you could go from your own like kind of inspirations or experiences?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, with this story, I wanted it there for me. There had to be kind of a reason why George's father was so withdrawn and cranky, and I didn't want to write a story about money, kind of greed to do with money. I just kind of, it didn't feel right. But I thought something that we can all relate to on some level, you know, is loss and grief. And it's not like the abiding theme of George's emotion. Like, George misses his mom, but he's kind of made his peace with it. And what he wants to get back to is essentially a time of like hope and happiness. And to him, that's what Christmas represents. Really, it's like Hugo who's still stuck in this mindset of like, what is the point in ever celebrating anything again, you know, if we don't have Greta in our lives. And so I think that's something that, or certainly the feedback that I've gotten is people who read it, they can understand better like why Hugo is the way he is. Like, he's not just like a mean dad. Like, he loves George and George loves him, but like there's complicating factors. And it's not difficult for me to write about stuff like that, because I think it's a human experience, the idea of kind of loss and moving on and looking for hope and optimism. And another thing that I like to do whenever I talk about like heavier themes, similar in Stormkeeper, is I pack my books with a lot of humor. And that's not to like undercut like the serious tones, but for me, like, humor is so important. It's, you know, growing up in my everyday life and the things that I'm interested in. And so I knew that if I was going to write about something serious, like, you know, loss in the case of, you know, George's mom, I could offset it or make it almost more palatable by bringing in a lot of joy and humor and hope in the form of like these zany side characters. And that was actually really fun, getting to use like, you know, like, so one of the characters, she's on the cover, is an elf on the shelf called Trixie, who comes to life, and she's just so annoying. Like, she's so lovable, but she's so annoying. Like, George's dad is like, you are the most annoying person I've ever met. And because it was really fun writing these characters, trying to get Hugo back to himself and out of his misery, the kind of push and pull of like grief and humor and hope and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, I just think it was super fun. And I think I wanted to write a story that was as meaningful as A Christmas Carol. And I think the only way to do that was to deal with a really true human experience like loss. And it kind of fit the story. Yeah. Did I answer your question? Maybe.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. I definitely feel like a lot of my favorite, like personal favorite middle grades are ones that are rooted in reality. I love fantasy, but I love it when there is something that I can like almost relate to, or if I can't relate to it, at least I can understand it, kind of thing. Like, so like fantasy can be a bit nonsensical, it can be a bit whimsical, which I love, but there's just nothing better than being able to almost imagine it as if it was real. And for you, this must, am I right in thinking this? Did you base Trixie off yourself? Did I see somewhere that you said that you had based Trixie off yourself? Or am I making that up?
Funny. I don't know if I said it, but yeah, definitely Trixie is, which is funny because she is so insane. She's probably the
She's
character in the
so
book
funny.
she's my favorite to write because she's
Yeah.
just so chaotic. And yes, definitely she's the most similar. If I was to pick a character that was the most similar to me, I'd probably pick Trixie. She's obviously like this exaggerated, ridiculous kind of Christmassy version. But she's definitely the most fun to write because she's just like, there was just very few or very little that I couldn't do with her. Like she's definitely for me the humorous heart of the book. And I can't believe I said that. Did I say that? I do think that. So that is either you know me really well or I did say that somewhere. But yeah.
Now I question where I saw that from now. Maybe I'm just that good. Like,
wow.
done my
I
research.
feel so seen. I feel like I'm in a therapy session.
Well, speaking of, any trouble? No, John. I feel like I'm definitely like a bit of a Trixie and a Nana Flo mix in one, to be honest. But do you base a lot of characters on other people a lot? Have you done that with any of the other characters in this, or maybe with Stormtroopers?
So generally, I always say like in my books, there's always one character that I not fully steal from my real life, but based on someone in my real life, and it's always a grandparent, one of my grandparents. So like Fion's grandfather in Stormkeeper is based on my grandfather, and Nana Flo in The Miracle on Ebeneezer Street, who is sort of like George's stalwart companion, the kind of the person that's closest to him in the world, who'll do anything for him and kind of helps him on his like adventure to bring back Christmas. So she's based on my Nana Jo, who is still alive. She's 96 years old, and she's got 8 children, and she's like the matriarch of the family. She's the sole carer for her son, my uncle, who's got Down syndrome. He's 62, and she still lives by herself, or she lives with my uncle, and she's just like a mighty woman. She is like a formidable character, incredibly strong and like good humored, and she doesn't let like pain or hardship or grief cow her. She is very much, she's just like the beating heart of the family, and I really wanted to write a character based on her. So when I was doing this Christmas Carol retelling, I thought, okay, well, poor George, he's in this like house with his dad who's really glum all the time. But I need to give him not like a festive, funny elf sidekick, but like a real life character sidekick who will be by his side throughout and will bring joy and happiness to his life and be like his ally. And so immediately I was like, oh, perfect, it's time. So, there comes Nana Flo, who, is sort of like what I would imagine my Nana Jo would be like if she were in a magical middle grade adventure story.
Well, it sounds like you have an incredible family, because she sounds like such an amazing woman.
Yeah.
And call me to get to that 100 and get the letter from the Queen. Wait, actually, do you get a letter from the Queen if you hit 100 if you live in Ireland?
No, I'm pretty sure the president, as far as I know, I think the president of Ireland sends you like a congrats, and then I think you get €100 from like the post office. You definitely get €100.
Ooh,
so
nice. That's what I would want.
Yeah.
I just want the euros. Take that letter and shove it where the sun don't shine. I want that money.
I know. Our president actually, I think, is in his like mid 80s, so he's getting up there as well.
No, I love characters in like books like Nana Flo who are like, because I feel like even with Stonekeeper's Island as well, there is that elderly presence that just makes it feel a lot more magical. I don't know what it is about older people, but it's like they've got the experience, they know stories, they have stories, and just their presence, it's like a shining light in the main character. It's definitely present in both books, I feel. And I don't know if maybe you're going to be carrying that over into more stories with, that kind of magical grandparent figure, because it sounds like they're very influential to you.
Yeah, I love grandparents. I mean, all of them, but mine especially. A friend of mine made a joke recently. She was like, "What is it with you and bloody grandparents?" Yeah, I agree with you. I think in the case of mine, and I'm sure most, they're just living stories. They've been through the wars, like literally and figuratively, and they're just such a reassuring. I find them really reassuring in children's books, and certainly if ever I can wedge a grandparent into a story of mine, you best believe I will. I just think they're really special.
Yeah, I 100% agree. Also, this lovely comment you made: such a wonderful story accessible to children. George is a gorgeous character. I fell in love with him. He is such a good protagonist. As I
Poor
said,
boy.
he's a cinnamon roll. You know, he's oh gosh,
I love
definitely.
cinnamon rolls. You're making me
Me
hungry.
too. Oh God, same. I love them toasted as well.
Mm.
Uh, so I'd love for you to answer this question while I top up. Would you write more festive books in the future?
Oh, I'd love to. Yeah, like within a drop of a hat. Absolutely. I
It's
love
like
Christmas. Yeah. Hmm?
yeah, it's like writing festive books, kind of like a bucket list thing for most authors, because not like all authors do. You know, like I guess haven't like released them, have they? Like you get the odd one. Now when I'm thinking about when I did that festive middle grades recommendations video, I was looking at my, Christmassy middle grades and I was like, I don't really have a whole lot, to be honest.
Yeah.
There could definitely be more in the market. But it must be like a bucket list kind of thing because there isn't really, I don't know
Yeah.
if it's like there's a big market for it or
I think
what.
because it's the market is, I think you're looking at 8 weeks, really like 8 weeks of Christmas. And then I guess the idea is if you write a good enough one, or if you get enough traction, it will be kind of year on year, you'll get those sales. But it's a trickier concept to sell to a publisher as an author, like, hey, I want to do this Christmas book, because it means they have to pour a lot of money behind it, and the return could take years and years and years, which is why I think most authors will wait to be asked. Or, usually a publisher will reach out with a concept. I think probably for me, it was always a huge bucket list item. And because I just love Christmas and I love writing and like magical middle grade, it all makes sense. It probably just depends on the author and how much they actually like Christmas, which is important.
That's true. I do love that because it's out in hardback. I imagine this time next year it will probably come out in paperback
Yeah.
just in time for like the next Christmas. And I love it because whenever you go into like a Waterstones or anything, they always have like a Christmassy table on during the holidays. Like I know I do.
Yeah.
And there's all those like old favorites, like A Boy Called Christmas or Christmas Chamber of Souls and Christmas Saurus. Yeah, that's currently out. And then because Winter Witch came out last year in hardback, out in paperback this year. The same thing will happen to Miracle on Ebeneezer Street, and it'll rake in the dollar. You just and then you'll write so many more. So I guess Miracle on Ebeneezer Street 2 is probably a no.
I mean, I don't know. Is it the type of book that warrants a sequel? To be honest, and if it was the kind of book that I guess sales wise warranted one, it wouldn't, like you say, that this is the hardback cycle, then there'll be the paperback cycle. So not for another few, couple of years. We'll see what happens with it in the meantime.
I'll just write some fan fiction then.
Yeah, what would your fan fiction be?
It will be something miracle. I don't know, like maybe it could be George when he's older, and maybe he's turned into like his dad. Because oh my god, well, actually we did. Oh, I'm not spoiling anything. No, it's fine. I'm not saying anything. But I'm definitely. I could probably work that in somehow. And also with these guys, because there's the whole storyline with his cousin as well. I'd love to explore them too. Oh, there's just so much that I'd love to see. But I agree with you actually. I feel like this is such a well-rounded story. It doesn't warrant a sequel.
Yeah.
But I'm the kind of person who leeches on to characters, and I never want to let them go ever. So
I could see Marley. I could see like Marley's Christmas Curiosities. I could see that being the link in terms of like he has to help another child with another, miracle. But I think, I don't have any yearning to do a sequel. Watch this come back and bite me.
Yeah, I'm gonna screen record this section, and in 5 years' time, when you've released 2 more Christmas books, we'll see who's laughing.
Another miracle at Ebeneezer Street. Yeah.
Oh, that's actually a good title.
It actually is pretty good.
You're inspired now. As soon as this interview's over, you're going to be writing down all the ideas that we've discussed. So I'd love to talk a little bit about Stormkeeper's Island now, then, if that's okay. I did recently just finish it and absolutely loved it. I believe this was before my time with Al Craig Jr., but wasn't this an Al Craig Jr. book a couple of years back?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it was.
How did that come about? Because I've always been so interested about the whole book box side of it, and like how authors are kind of involved or not involved in it. Like, I just love the idea behind that. I love Al Craig Jr.
I think so do I. They're amazing, and their picks are second to none, if I may say. I think it came through Bloomsbury US, so the US arm of Stormkeeper, because I think Alcrate they're definitely North American. Are they Canadian or American? I think they're American, but
I think American, because like the amount of time it takes for me to get my boxes.
They're definitely across the Atlantic anyways. I think as far as I'm aware, I think Bloomsbury US, ahead of the publication of Stormkeeper in America, sent out proofs to various places, and Owl Crate just really loved it and they wanted to make their Owl Crate book of the month. And Amazon, they sent it to Amazon, and Amazon made it a book of the month as well. So like it got a lot of love, which was surprising to me on the other side of the Atlantic, just because when you write something that's very, like, for me, it's a very culturally sort of Irish book in many ways. It's hard to kind of gauge if people outside of kind of Ireland will take to it. And, they did, thankfully.
I love books that incorporates cultural mythology in. I feel like Stormkeeper's Island does like such a phenomenal job at making me want to visit Arranmore Island. Like I want to see it in the flesh now. And like I was going to ask about the inspiration behind it, but you already mentioned it was because you'd visited the island, and that's when you really wanted to take on this novel, which I absolutely love. Anything to do with that. It must be quite daunting though, because as an Irish person, it must be, because you're sort of representing a nation, kind of. Maybe it's not that big, maybe I'm thinking too deep into it, but it's kind of like, do you not feel like any pressure whatsoever when you're writing? Like I feel like if I was writing a book about Geordies in Newcastle, I would be so worried about the reception that people from Newcastle would have about the book. Were you worried at all about the people in your hometown thinking, what's she going on about?
So that's a good question, and no one has ever asked me that before. To be honest, the one thing you did it, you cracked the unasked question. The one thing that I was worried about, to answer your question, no, for the island of Ireland, because I think it's pretty faithful to the myths and legends, and I think and because I am Irish, I feel it's an authentically Irish book, as opposed to kind of sometimes. It can be annoying if somebody who's not from where you're from comes in and tries to pretend that they are. But for me, no, because I knew it was like authentically Irish, but I was worried about the actual depiction of Arranmore. There are, parts of the story of Stormkeeper that are real. They're based on my ancestors, my grandparents, real rescues, lifeboat rescues that took place in, 1940. And of course the island is real, and it's where, a lot of my relatives still live. So I wanted to make sure that not only was that faithful, but also positive and beautiful. I wanted Arranmore to come across as a place of immense beauty and pride for me, because I'm so proud of kind of where I come from. But also I didn't grow up there. So, I didn't want to seem like I had too much ownership over it. So I was definitely nervous about my grandparents' reaction. They were, so touched, and kind of anyone who lives on Arranmore. But then, what happened was, which is kind of really cool, is pretty early on, it sold into over 20 foreign language territory, more than 20 territories, but it's in over 20 foreign languages now across the world. And in America, and I've gotten to kind of travel to various places like, Italy and France and the United Arab Emirates to talk about it, and that I'm so proud. I'm really proud of it being an Irish book that's done well internationally. I think that's incredible. I feel really proud that I'm like representing my country in that way, and I feel extra proud that like all these people like in like the most random areas of the world know about Arranmore Island, and like there's been people who have visited Arranmore on the strength of just reading the book. Like that blows my mind. They like my cousins will send me a message and say, "Oh, there was someone here today from somewhere in Italy, and they had read your book, and now they're on the island." I think that's so funny. So yeah, like it's definitely something I'm always conscious of, but I'm also kind of proud of the reception that it's gotten. And so far, I haven't had anyone. Maybe they wouldn't tell me if they were mad, but I've only had good. Like I returned to Arranmore last year to go into the schools and chat about it, and they all kind of know about the book, and that was amazing. It was like a hero's welcome when I went home. Like they were so good to me, and like they took me up to the lighthouse, and there was a bagpiper there, and he played like all this Irish music, and I was like just looking out over these cliffs with all these kind of distant cousins of mine and sort of just chatting to them. And it felt like I felt really embraced. And it's probably like the best few days of my life, I would say.
Yeah, that sounds incredible. And
Yeah, cool.
I know what you mean about people saying, because it's a place that you can actually visit. I would love to be able to go over and visit the locations that are in the book and be like, oh, that's where Fionn fainted on the beach. Oh, those are the caves. You know what I mean? Like, there's like little like moments where I'd be able to see it in my head, and I like take photos, like me of a selfie with a bit of the beach and pretend that's where it actually happened. I feel like, yeah, you've created something that I think is going to be special for that island for a very long time, and not just the island, as you said, over 20 foreign languages. It's like worldwide international.
Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah, it must be quite scary as well. That many people know you. It's
well, I don't think it's like I don't ever feel like particularly known, but it's just cool. Like when I was in Sharjah, which is next to Dubai, I remember I was like at a festival there, and I was just telling the kids about the book, and it was crazy because they couldn't get over the fact that the book was set beside the ocean. So all of their questions, instead of being about like the magic, was like, what does the ocean smell like? Or like, what does it look like? Is the ocean cold? Because like so many of them kind of grow up in the desert, and like that's their normal is kind of like sand, whereas my normal, your normal is kind of like the sea. You know, that's not that foreign a concept to us, but it's just cool because you're like, I don't know, like, yeah, I feel like really lucky to get to kind of do that. Not this year, but generally.
No. It'll just make it that much sweeter when you can do it again, I feel. It'll be phenomenal. Did you know as well that Owen Colfer said that this book is magical in every way? Is he the kind of person that like you're kind of starstruck by the fact that he would have read it and really loved it? Are there any more like that who've surprised you in that sense, that they've read your books and be like, wow, she can write?
I mean, check her out. I love Owen Colfer. Like when I was growing up, Artemis Fowl was like one of my favorite books of all time, because like it's an Irish author who's achieved immense, like incredible international success, movie with Disney. So he's always someone I've looked up to. His books are brilliant. I love Artemis Fowl. So when we got the quote from him, I was like, probably he would have been my top choice. Like J.K. Rowling, well, Owen Colfer at the time, 2 or 3 years ago, he definitely would have been like up there for sure. And now, yeah, it's funny because I'm trying to think, is there anyone above Owen Colfer? For me, probably not, unless you can exhume the corpse of C.S. Lewis, bring him back and give him my books to read. But like in terms of like living authors that I really look up to, I would say he's up there for sure.
Could you imagine if there was a quote from Charles Dickens on this, like almost as good as the original? You know what I mean? Like that would.
Charles Dickens will be like, "What is this? What is this?
This is not what I intended."
He would be so. Imagine if he came back from the dead and read it, which of course that would not be first on his bucket list. I'm sure he'd be so disturbed because it's so. I'd love that.
To be honest, I feel like Charles Dickens is the kind of person who, when he comes back from the dead, he would watch all the adaptations of his works. He would watch all of he would read all of the retellings, and he would like be making notes. He would
what a narcissist, You come back 150 years later. Where are my books? Who's retold them? I love that. And even if he was really mean about it, I'd still put the quote on the cover just because it's class. I was like, yeah, this is Charles Dickens. He burnt this. He hated it.
Wow, what an iconic person you are. And then some of my, because it's still fresh in my mind, Stonekeeper's Island. I read so much, like this is like the 200th book I've read this year, like 205th, I don't know.
Wow. Wow.
But I read so much that I always end up just going on to the next one and forgetting what I've read beforehand. Yeah. But this one like kind of stuck with me because of the characters. I love Fionn and Tara's relationship as siblings. It so reminds me of me and my older sister. I also have a younger brother, but we'll not go there. But like it definitely reminds me of like me and my sister anyway. And like how we can just get on each other's nerves, and it's that banter. Is that exactly like how you had, like how your life is, like with your siblings? Or
probably
you
not
definitely have
now.
a brother.
So I have two brothers. Yeah,
Okay.
so I have two. So it's actually really funny because the Fiona and Tara's relationship, I think, is probably the most divisive, or it's the thing I get the most comments on. And either the comments will be like what you said, which is like, oh, this is me and my sibling, it's so accurate.
Yeah.
Or the comment will be, why are they so horrible to each other? I don't understand it. It upsets me. And like, I find those comments kind of funny because I'm like, that is what listen, that is what it is like for a lot of us out there. So, I mean, my younger brother, when he read it, he's 3 years younger than me. He like called me and he was like, "Oh, thank you so much for writing a book about me." I was like, "Excuse me, what are you talking about?" And he said, "Well, I'm obviously Fionn because you're
Oh.
Tara." I was like, "What? I'm not Tara. You're Tara." And he's like, "No, you're Tara. Like that's exactly what you're like to me." And it was so funny because, as I always say, you know, I have an older brother and a younger brother, and I think some days you're the Fionn and some days you're the Tara. But it is that kind of bickering and banter. Not now because we're older, but definitely when we were teenagers. Oh my God, like we would absolutely kill each other. But now, and it's similar to the progression of where Fionn and Tara end up, is now like I'd do anything for them. But at the same time, I'd never tell them that, you know?
Yeah.
So for me, it's like the most authentic thing in the book by far. And I always laugh when people ask me like, why are they so mean? I don't get it. Like, isn't it a bit much? And I just think, no, do you not have siblings? This is a perfectly accurate depiction. So I'm glad that you also have that with your sibling. Yeah.
I was going to say, like, I don't know any sibling relationship where they get on so well. I've not felt like, yeah, they may get on most of the time. They could be like best friends, but surely there's always
Yeah.
been moments where you just haven't seen eye to eye.
And you know how to
thought,
cut your sibling as well. Like, you know the thing that's the thing about siblings. Like, you know that thing to say to really get under their
wind them
skin.
up.
Yeah, it's like a weapon that only your sibling has. And I'm just obsessed with sibling relationships. I just love them. I think they're so funny. Like, I love reading about them. And in Stormkeeper, one of the really authentic things I wanted to write to ground it in the real world, apart from Fionn's relationship with his grandfather, obviously, was his relationship with his sister. Was going to make it really difficult, and it was enjoyable to write.
I can imagine, especially with the huge cast of characters in there as well. Just with the granddad as well. Sometimes I feel like I'm the granddad, you know. Just I don't want to put up with I don't want to put up with anything anyone does anymore, and just chill on my own on an island, you know. Why not? You mentioned this before actually as well. You said that the last, well, correct me if I'm wrong, is the Stormkeeper's Ballad going to be the last book?
So it's a trilogy. Yeah, it was for a while. It was going to be 4 books, but it just didn't make sense. As I was coming to the 3rd book, it made way more sense to make that sort of an epic conclusion as opposed to just like dragging it out, and I feel like diluting the story unnecessarily. So the last book in the trilogy, The Stormkeeper's Battle, is out in March of next year.
Oh, that cover is beautiful as well.
Oh my God, I know.
Bill
Bragg, he's an incredible illustrator. Every time he does like a cover mock-up, I'm like, he's so good.
Yeah, literally. When you see all 3 of them together, I cannot wait to see all 3 of them in a row. Oh my God.
Yeah.
We
spend ages choosing the foil color every year for the font. We proof so many different like versions of what that color will look like. It's my favorite thing is like time to choose the foil color.
Definitely easier than writing the story, I imagine. Definitely more fun. And you definitely, because you said before that writing this final one, the Stormkeeper's Battle, has definitely been the hardest, but also the most proudest. So it must be your favorite of your books in general. Or is one of your YA books? Because I'm actually really interested to read one of your YA books. I'm not going to lie. In preparation of this interview, I watched an interview you did a good few years back about the original YA series. It's like to do with the mafia, right? And the video I watched was you deciphering, is that the right word? Deciphering mafia words.
Oh, mafia slang, yeah.
Yeah. So I'm really intrigued. So is one of those one of your favorite books that you ever wrote, or is Stormkeeper's Battle?
I don't know. That's a good question. I usually like the second book in the Inferno, which is the second YA book. Lost Tide Warriors, I loved. and it's crazy, like, because I love the Miracle on Ebeneezer Street. Like, I had just the best time writing it, and I have such like joy and pride talking about it. I don't know. Yeah, and then like the Stormkeeper's battle, it's just like, I feel like it's so epic. Like, when I was writing it, I was like, my heart was racing. I felt like I was on a roller coaster. This is like, what's your favorite child?
Yeah.
I don't know. It would be a toss-up probably between Tide Warriors and Stormkeeper's battle. I love Tide Warriors. There's a scene at the end of Tide Warriors. It's like super emotionally manipulative. I'm joking.
You just love
I
to
don't know.
manipulate the emotions.
No, like, as in, like, it made me cry writing. I don't know. I'd say, yeah, I'd say the Stormkeeper's battle. Let's just say that.
Okay. When I've asked this question to a lot of the authors I've had on, they've usually said it's almost always the most recent book is their favorite, mainly probably because it's the one that they've just wrote, and I don't know, maybe it's more fresh in your mind. But I can imagine that you probably have different favorites for different reasons, whether it's the experience writing them or whether you're proud of the end product. I can imagine that you have them for different reasons. I do want to quickly, this is a really funny question. If Charles Dickens tried to claim royalties, would you give him any?
No, I wouldn't. Because I think, and this could end up being very slanderous, but he's dead, so I think I can get away with it. I'm going to say, I think allegedly, and I could actually be wrong, so like, do correct me if I'm wrong, but I think he got his wife committed to a psychiatric hospital so he could have an affair with a younger woman. Or something. God. He did something dodgy. Not that that's an excuse for robbing someone of their royalties, but I remember reading about him and just being like, Charles Dickens, that's terrible. But no, unless he was legally entitled to them. But I would be like, no Charles.
I don't think he is. He's not legally entitled to them anymore. It's fine.
He would visit me like one of those ghosts in A Christmas Carol. He would be the ghost of like Dickens' past, being like, you owe me money. And I'd be like, oh no, I can't believe it's worse than the mouse jumping on my head is waking up to Charles Dickens in my bedroom in the middle of the night.
All you gotta do is snap his neck. He'll be fine. Grim, but it's just gotta be done. You gotta protect that money. You gotta protect that money,
being the person who murders Charles Dickens after somehow by a miracle he comes back to life.
Comes back.
Yeah.
I mean, he's kind of almost immortal now in his stories, which is what you're going to be like. So in like 20, maybe like in 100 years time, is that right? Yeah, 100 years time, people will be talking about Catherine Doyle, and they're going to be adapting their own Stormkeeper's Island. You're going to be haunting them from the grave, you know. And what's going to be worse as well, the people who are going to be adapting Stormkeeper's Island are not going to be Irish. They're going to make it. They're going to make it. They're going to make it a totally different place. I can't even think of anywhere anymore.
Yeah, same. I was like, what would annoy me? I literally can't think of any scenario where I wouldn't be massively flattered.
I literally can't think of any place on the planet now. So now, I mean, you probably can't mention too much about the final book, but what can readers expect? Are they going to expect like death? And he said it was going to be epic, so there's definitely going to be a battle. So like, what can what can like readers, like fans, expect from this book? Is the ending going to make us cry? Is it going to give us like this really hopeful uplift? Oh wait, you can't probably say that.
No, I think
what can you tell us?
I'm not looking to like depress anyone. It's a hopeful ending, I think. Or it's a hopeful book. It's just like massive magic. Obviously, the return of Anwar, the flying horse. I can say that because he's literally on the cover. He makes a very cool sort of appearance, which is so fun to write. And then the other thing I just say, like in terms of like clues, which I feel like some people have picked up on, is the placement of the apostrophe in the title is very important. So it's placed slightly differently to the Stormkeeper's Island, and that's a big clue about.
Oh my god, I didn't even think about that. I'm terrible at punctuation.
Same. Oh. So like loads of people don't, but it's I think it's a massive clue as to like the scale of the kind of magic that is going to happen. in the book.
Exciting. Do you know if there's going to be any like physical proofs or anything? Is it just going to be on NetGalley?
There may be, yeah, there might be. I think we're talking about that right now. There might be. I'm not 100% sure though, but see what I can do if you want one.
Yeah, hook a sister up. Hook a sister up. I think it was Trisha. Trisha asked, you did mention before that you are working on stuff and you could not say anything about it, apparently, allegedly. Now you've had a little bit more to drink. Can you say anything about what you're working on?
Uh-oh. So no, I'm working on a new middle grade standalone for not the March after next, so after the storm. So I'm already working on the thing that comes after Stormkeeper. And that's a middle grade kind of adventure. It's kind of a similar in terms of like Irish mythology. It's a little bit like Peter Pan meets the Chronicles of Narnia, but modern and adventurous and magical, similar to the tone sort of Stormkeeper. And then the other thing that I'm working on, it's going to be announced very shortly, and it's like massively exciting. But I really can't say anything about it. I get in so much trouble.
Can I get like a time frame of when this announcement will be? Like,
I think in the next two weeks, a week or two.
Oh, that's not too bad. I can wait.
Yeah.
That's I'm just like really excited and intrigued by how you can go from like, well, not like how, like obviously it's probably going to be easy, but when you write a book series like Stormkeeper's Island, and obviously these stories meant so much to you because it's partly based on your grandparents' island and stuff, like moving from that series to a totally different one, I can imagine it's probably tough for any author when they've written a hit series to go to the next one. Like, are you nervous? I don't want to like bum you out or anything, but like,
it's not going to be as good.
It's going to be better. It's going to be amazing. I think with each book, I feel like with any writer, it's just going to get more magical and more, I don't know, like more seasoned, I guess, and just more incredible. So I guess you must be a bit nervous just going from, this must be like a comfort series for you now. It's like a comfort to write in that world. Now you're branching out, you're growing up.
I know. Yeah, it's true. It is kind of daunting because, like you say, it feels like, you know, Stormkeeper was my home, really, like my kind of creative home for quite a few years. I think with the book that I'm working on now, it feels comfortable to me in a different way because it's inspired by a lot of kind of myths and legends that I grew up on, you know. So it feels, the territory is familiar, but the kind of reworking of it is modern and obviously and new story. And it's a little bit different in terms of it's going to be a little bit shorter and a little bit pacier and a little bit more sort of adventure forward, magic forward, as opposed to kind of Fionn's journey, which was in many ways quite kind of emotional and quite it's not a slow journey, but I feel like in terms of pace, I guess the one I'm working on now is a bit more immediately exciting and adventurous, and that's like fun to write. And it's a standalone, so it's not a kind of another kind of big sort of series to go into. And so far, like it's really early days, like I'm only on the first draft, but so far like it's fun and exciting and it feels like really fresh to me. So usually that's a good sign, but like I anticipate that I'll be rewriting it 3 to 4 more times as per usual.
I was going to say, you've got my email if you want to send over that draft, which I know you won't, but still.
Nobody's going to see this draft. I'd rather die.
You must like yourself a myth and legend then, because like myths and legend, you like to incorporate them. Yeah, you love yourself a myth, a man of myth.
Yeah, I like taking a myth. I like taking a myth and then totally reworking it. I don't know. I just think it's fun. Yeah, and I feel like Irish mythology, there's so many cool things in Irish mythology. There's just, oh my God, we have so much stuff. And so much of it like informed my childhood and my childhood reading habits. So kind of, I like just like a magpie taking like little things and like blowing it up or twisting it and changing it. It's fun. Yeah, I find it really fun.
There's, because I was going to say, there's not really a lot that I can think of anyway that incorporates a lot of Irish mythology. There's always, I guess, like Chinese mythology or Russian mythology, folk tales. I guess like the Irish mythology gets overlooked a lot. So you're kind of doing a service yet.
I know, what's that about? Yeah. I mean, I will say that there's a good few. I mean, in Ireland, it's obviously more common in Ireland to see books kind of inspired by mythology, but they don't often make it, or they don't always make it to kind of international waters, if you will, or international territories. But there's just loads of cool kind of concepts, and but I will say, like most things, like in Stormkeeper, I just take and then completely modernize or rewrite to suit what the story is that I want to tell. So I'm not like mad faithful to the myths, but who's gonna give out to me about that? Nobody knows who wrote them. It's fine. But yeah, I just think I think in most countries have really cool, like the Arthurian legends and stuff, Camelot and all that. That's cool. It's kind of like and Ireland has its own kind of versions of that kind of thing, but like knights and castles and curses and magic. Love that.
Yeah, same actually. And it's always kind of, even if it's not really a direct retelling, there's always kind of elements from those stories that feeds into it. No, that's a really good show. I watched not talking about books now, talking about movie. I think it's same. Laura, I think it was Laura Ellen Anderson who recommended watching, was it Song of the Sea? I think it was.
Oh, is it the Irish?
It's an Irish, it's got like Irish. But I think that's what it was called. And it was so gorgeous and such a beautiful movie. And I was like, I need me some more Irish. I need me in Irish. It's just literally what I want tattooed on my shirt. I want me in Irish. You guys have like, we need more is what I'm trying to say. We need more.
Great.
That kind of
That's
thing.
what I want to hear.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to give it to you.
Yay. Good. So I guess that, I've asked all the questions that I had anyway. If anybody has any questions, do let us know. But Catherine, Kat, sorry, it would be like, before we like close off and stuff, do you have any kind, you mentioned the Midnight Guardians before. I love trying to get my viewers to read a lot more middle grade, and so like, do you have any like shout outs for like any other authors, like your besties, maybe like your middle grade besties and like their kind of books and stuff? What's your, do you have a clique? Do you have a clique?
So do I have a clique? So
I am the cool squad.
Yeah, the cool gang. I'm over here in the west of Ireland, like totally by myself. So I'm obviously Katie Webber, Catherine Webber is literally family. I'm engaged to her brother, so she's my top recommendation. Her and Kevin Sangs, they do Dragon Mountain. Got to shout out Dragon Mountain. That was Waterstone's book of the month in, I want to say September.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Love Ross. Ross and I share an agent, but even if I didn't know him, I really would choose his Midnight Guardians. Is just like one of my favorite children's books of all time. And Anna James, Pages and Co series. Also, big shout out, Kieran Millwood Hargrave. Her recent one, Secret of Bird and Bone, incredible. Everything she writes is just like next level. Like from
She's
her
not
adult.
Human.
It's crazy. I'm like, do you sleep? Maybe not. Well, else? Like, I'm trying to think of the most recent ones. But you know what? I got this proof. I don't know if you've read it yet, but I just got this. I'm going to show it to you because it's cool. Literally, it's on my table. Have you heard of this book?
Oh, yes. Sorry, I don't know why I went really squeaky there. Yeah, I just got the proof of that as well.
Literally, this is the thing that I'm going to be reading now or tonight. I'm going to start tonight. The Last Bear by Hannah Gold. Yeah. It looks so good. And that illustration is incredible.
It actually is.
I feel like I'm going to cry though. You know, when you see a book and you're like, oh, I'm going to cry.
100%. AKA a Miracle on Ebeneezer Street, yes.
yeah. Have a nice cathartic weep. But yeah, so that's what I'm reading next. And literally, like when you were like, what have you been reading? Anytime anyone asks me that, my mind goes completely blank. It's like I've never read a book in my life. Oh, actually, do you know what I'm also reading is Hollowpox by Jessica Townsend, which I love that series. I think it's just so magical. Really, really exciting. So that I'm reading that at the same time as The Last Bear and Sam Copeland's
Uma?
Is it Uma and the Answer to Absolutely Everything? His follow-up to Charlie Changes into a Chicken. It's so funny. Like his books always make me laugh out loud. Him and Ross, just like incredible. So they're the kind of most recent middle grades that I've been reading. And then like for adults, haven't read a lot of adults. I read what's that one? Curtis Sittenfeld's. It's the one where she like Rodham. Do you know where she like? It's like a version of Hillary and Bill Clinton. I don't know how she like legally got away with that.
Oh,
it's like
yes, I've seen that in the store. Yeah,
I read that because I was like, how did she? Yeah, I don't know how she legally got away with it, but that was really good. Even though like I don't know a lot about the Clintons apart from like the obvious scandals and stuff and the fact that he was president. But yeah, it was really good. I really liked that.
I never would have thought to pick that up. It sounds, because when I saw it, I was like, yeah, why? Well, number one, why? Number two, is this going to be like interesting? Like,
yeah, I someone recommended. No, several people recommended to me, and I was like, fine. I hadn't read like an adult book in ages, so I was like, okay, yeah, I'll read it. And I was more just curious because it really feels like it's Hillary Clinton telling the story, like the details and stuff. Like she did a huge amount of research on like their like how they met and their dating life and all these kind of things. So like what's weird is as you're reading it, you think that you're reading essentially like Hillary Clinton's narrative, but obviously it's not Hillary Clinton. Yeah, it was good. I really liked it. It was like I have a lot of questions about it still.
I can imagine. I might give it a read.
No, I mean,
yeah.
It wouldn't be like a top Christmas recommendation. I would go more like for this Christmas. I'm just going to do, I think, middle grade and happy stories.
Fair. I mean, I've already done my December TBR, and there's some on there like The Walking Dead that I didn't want to read, but I play a TBR game where if I like turn like do you know Play Your Cards Right?
What's
like
that?
it's like a game show where you put like 5 cards down and then you have to guess like higher or lower and then turn the card over, and if you get it right you progress, but if you get it wrong you lose. So that's what I do between 2 books. I like it. But I pick between did I just say I poo? Sorry, no, that's not what I meant. I pick between like a book that I really want to read and then a book that I maybe don't want to read as much, or a book that won't fit like a certain like season or something, just to up the ante. And I'm reading The Walking Dead because I lose so many times. So I end up reading books that I really shouldn't be reading. So
that's your what's your like Christmas? What do you recommend I read?
Oh, for Christmas. Oh, have you read Tinsel yet by Chabelle Pounder?
I will. That's a really good one, actually. That's a really good one. That's like nice, and I feel like that's a good festive feminist sort of uplifting sort of Christmassy tale, which is a vibe.
100%. And I love the whole idea of like Snorkus Porkus. I'd love to write a festive sort of like middle grade kind of thing. I just write that's like almost a bucket list, because
cool.
I do love like Christmas. It's the best season, and even in retail it's still something to look forward to. It's like Christmas Eve and going to sleep on Christmas Eve night waiting for Santa. Do you believe in Santa still? Because I feel like I kind of do a little bit. There's still a little part of me.
I believe in every single magical Tooth Fairy, Easter Bunny, Santa. I'm all about the magic.
Oh my gosh. You mentioned all the kind of creatures from Rise of the Guardians. Have you seen that? The movie?
Is that the one Rise of the Guardians? Is that like one of the is that the raccoon?
Oh, that's Guardians of the Galaxy, that one.
What's Rise of the Guardians?
That's Marvel. That's Marvel. Rise of the Guardians is...
is that cute tree, Groot? What's Rise of the Guardians?
Yeah, that's Guardians of the Galaxy, that one. That's totally different, but I mean, it's still a great movie. Rise of the Guardians is like Santa Claus, the Easter Bunny, the Tooth Fairy, Jack Frost. It's like the mythical figures in...
Is this a film?
Yeah, it's like an animated film by DreamWorks.
I don't think I've seen that.
Oh my god! Well, if it's on Netflix or if you buy like any other,
I don't know if I've seen the other one either that I just brought up, the one with the raccoon.
To be fair, that was.
I will watch it. I will watch that. And you have to watch Klaus.
Oh, I will. That's probably what I'll do tonight when I go to bed.
It's really good, honestly. It's so, and people I feel like are mistrustful of modern day Christmas movies because the classics are so good, but I feel like Klaus has like classic status. That's how good I think it is.
Oof, it's literally got.
They should pay me. I'm always recommending it. people.
Get a
like I'm
commission. Yeah,
Yeah.
kind of like bookshop.org. You get a little bit of a commission for
Yeah,
for every
come
sale.
on.
What will you be doing for the rest of the night? Are you going to be chilling, or what's the
I'll probably
plan?
read. Yeah, I'll probably do
Probably
some
read tinsel.
reading. Yeah, probably. I'm gonna read a book. It's kind of rainy here, which is nice. It's nice and cozy. Have some more wine. Eat some food. You just chill. There's very little to do. But this is my favorite kind of, when it's like rainy outside and you can just curl up with a book, relax, drink responsibly.
Responsibly, yeah, exactly. So if you're watching with
Yeah.
kids, I only ever do this on a Friday night, and this is a special occasion. So
Hey, you're working in retail at Christmas time. I think you can unwind
yeah,
where
yeah.
possible.
I mean, it's not going to be too bad, like with hours and stuff. It's like YouTube as well on top of it. That's the killer. That's the killer. It's like I come home, I can't
Yeah.
really just unwind. I need to do some kind of thing on YouTube, or read a middle grade book so that I can recommend it and things like that. That's what I usually end up having to do, which is I do love. Don't get me wrong, but it can be taxing.
Yes. You must have a good Christmas holiday then. Take some days off over Christmas if you can. In the busiest time in retail. You're not going to work. Are you working Christmas Eve?
I don't know yet. I only found out if I'm working Sunday literally today, and I am working Sunday.
Oh,
I don't get yeah.
surprise.
It's yeah. I don't blame them. It's like I can't imagine them doing like rotas for like the entire country. It's like I can only imagine. Bless them. So they must be swamped.
Yeah.
But I hope I don't know. I don't know what I'm doing, and because usually on a Christmas Eve, like my tradition is putting on. I usually put on 3 Christmas films, but the last one is the Polar Express,
Yeah.
and that's when I go to bed, and before I go to sleep, that's the last one I watch, and that's pretty much it. Really, it's like it's always Christmas movies, and it's never really anything too exciting, and but I like it. It's my little thing.
Yeah. I disagree. That sounds exciting to me. Perfect Christmas Eve.
I do try. Well, thank you everyone for tuning in. You will still be able to watch this on YouTube. This will be remaining up. So yeah, you guys be sure to follow Kat in the comments as well. I have not the comments, the description box. I have Kat's Twitter, Instagram, website. Do you have anything else? I think them are the only 3 I've listed. Do you have Facebook?
Not really. I mean, I do, but I never go on it.
And who does? It's a bit of an old thing now. But definitely go check out Kat. Also check out The Miracle on Ebeneezer Street. I always get tongue twisted. The Miracle
It's
on
hard to
Ebeneezer.
say. It is actually hard to say. Yeah.
And I feel like we have quite strong accents as well. I mean, I don't know about me, but yeah, it's like like Geordie is a bit of a weird one. But
it's a nice accent. I like it.
I try to be posh. When I'm on camera, I try to be posh, as posh as I possibly can. So I'm glad that came through. But yeah, definitely follow Kat. Buy The Miracle on Ebeneezer Street. I mention it so many times. You must be sick of me, honestly. The amount of times I've mentioned you, tagged you and stuff. Like, yes, Gavin again. Jeez,
no, it's so nice. Truly, it's amazing. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Well, thanks everyone, and yeah, thanks for tuning in.